All right, everybody, welcome to episode 97 of This Week in Grip. Today it is going to be myself, James, and we have a special guest, Jerome Bloom, where we are going to be going through some results of a recent competition. Jerome, it's good to have you on. How you doing?
Very well, thanks. Good afternoon over there. It's 6 over here, so a bit of a time difference. Still daytime, so very, very honoured to be invited.
Yes, it's great to have you on. You know, when you talk about that time thing, that's been a confusing issue on the show in the past because it's noon my time, 1 o'clock for James, and then 6 for you. So this has caused some issues for me in the past. Well, I think I might have even missed the show at one time, actually. So makes it strange. Yep.
Yeah, you're Alan, you're right at the extreme other end of the USA, aren't you? Right down in California?
I'm Wisconsin.
Alan wishes he was.
Oh, it's completely different.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, I would like a little warmer though.
Yeah. So this event, I know we're a little late with it, but it was April 27th at David Horn's Grip Factory.
Yeah, it was. This is the British Grip Championships, and the thing is, I know that David's a very modest guy, David Horn. He's probably one of the most experienced guys in our sport, and
sure.
Probably done more for our sport than anyone, or as much as anyone that I know. And I just really want him. It's good to have his achievements recognised, and he's actually retired from competing himself. Which was last year in the Europeans. Yeah, and the last time he competed in a big competition was the European Grip Championships last year. And it was great to compete with him. This year he's now hosting a select number of competitions. So he's not retired, but he's definitely slowed down on the number of tours he's doing and that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, just from, I watch David's YouTube channel, so, I still keep up to date with some of his feats of strength, specifically grip strength. He's still very strong. That's for sure.
He's amazing.
Doesn't look like he's lost anything at all.
Yeah, I mean, like any of us, he tends to get into very enthusiastically into one thing at a time, and then other things he'll keep up. But very much it's been about the steel bending in recent months and years with him and Elizabeth, his wife, and his whole family. Yeah. They're amazing. I mean, I won't. That's another subject, how relevant steel bending is for grip, but it's still very much an active part of our competitions, even though I'm rubbish at it. And so it was featured in the British Grip Championships. So did you want me to, I'll just very briefly sort of go over what it included, and then
sure.
You can just ask what you want, yeah?
Yeah,
well,
that's great.
It was held over 2 days. So the first day was the actual British Grip Champs, and then the Sunday was a record breakers event where those who stuck around got to go for 3 world records attempts, and which is always fun, because you can just pick your favourite things, especially if you've been in a competition the day before where there's things that don't suit you, and you get to have a bit of fun the next day. And a lot of people stuck around. There were some phenomenal athletes, mostly heavyweights, and the actual events, let's see if I can get this right. So it started with it's a controversial one. It's the Meathook deadlift.
Yeah.
Which it's not everyone's favourite. It's I would say it's the sort of thing you look at and you think, oh, that's going to be hard as hell. And when you do it, it hurts the hands, but it's not really, in my opinion, fundamentally a grip thing. It's actually very easy to lift. Yeah, it's very easy to lift with those things.
It is. What I noticed was because we messed around one day at practice and at grip training at Bob Sundin's house, and what I noticed was like you could obviously lift a lot more weights, with the meat hooks, but it seemed less like a grip strength thing and more like a pain tolerance thing.
Absolutely, it's you have to get it right in the. The best way I can describe it is the most successful lifts are you bury it at the base of your fingers, right in the pad, right in the top of your pad at the base of the knuckles there, and as long as it doesn't slip, you get through it in one piece. Often draws blood, and it's not as ugly as it sounds. I think it's an event that, because when people do it, they're surprised. Well, after your first warm-up lift or two, it's actually fun to do. I didn't do well. I have to admit, I'm about the most unbalanced person on the circuit as far as left and right is concerned, and my big problem was getting the height on both sides at the same time. So a lot of people did better than me. The next event...
Okay. Yeah. Well, no, I was going to say,
Go ahead.
Just if we can stay with it, I saw that in the results of the event that the first place was decided by 1/4 kilogram, huh? That is,
I mean, it's
a
bit of gamesmanship there, I think. I've actually been in a competition again with the deadlift quite a few years ago, where one of my arch rivals, although still a friend, Fitz de Bova, actually pipped my brother by the tiniest amount, and we've all done that to each other over the years. I mean, I remember just putting a tiny bit on his records and things, and on the Euro pinch and that sort of thing, and it's always about what you go in at, and all of these only have 4 lifts, so it's more of a mind game than anything else. With the Meathook, I've got them at home. I don't have 200 kilos of weights to be lifting regularly, so that's a hell of a lot of weight. And on the day, it surprised me how easily the 200 came up, but I could not get the height on both arms. So I effectively, what I ended up with was a very unbalanced lockout. So I couldn't, unless I could shrug with my shoulders 200 kilos, which isn't going to happen. I wasn't going to get that height on the other arm unless I completely, once you're up, you're up. So I ended up, that's why the result for me goes back to quite a very modest weight of 162 kilos. And so I was way down on legal lifts. Ruben Hughes, have you ever heard of him?
I have. I don't know much about him, but I know that he's won several contests up that way, right?
He's phenomenal. He builds stone walls out in the beautiful coast of Wales, and he's just a phenomenal. He does. He's got huge shovel hands. He's not phenomenally tall. I guess he's about 6 foot at the most. But he's got massive hands, and he's got a heart like... one thing we're always looking for in this sport is someone who actually goes that extra bit as far as effort. A lot of people... you get a lot of weightlifters and strongmen and bodybuilders and arm wrestlers who go in, and it's a bit of fun, and they maybe get their numbers wrong. It hurts their pride a bit, and they maybe don't know how to apply themselves. But Ruben always seems to have a good game plan. He always knows what numbers he wants to go for. I mean, 100%. Every time he goes in, he's absolutely knows what he's going for. And the numbers he calls out for us to load up on every event, we just always asking him, really? Because he's just crazy what he is capable of. So on the day he topped out at 267.75 kilos. Yeah. But he was actually disappointed with that. I think he might have got a heavier weight the following day. I'll just check, because we had the Record Breakers event. I don't know if I can get this right. So it's using David's site here. David Horn's got quite a good. He's got a good website with a very kind of comprehensive list of all the records, all the events over the years, and just sort of going through all these.
What
so
I
I'm just
have
trying
actually,
to bring up.
I was going to say what I have listed here was that he had lifted 287.05 kilograms the next day, the record breaker event.
Right. That sounds about right. Yes, he actually beat incredibly. I didn't think this would happen from a guy of his weight because he's in. I think he weighs about just under 200 pounds. So he's
guy.
Yeah, so 92 kilos
and he's
is just about 200. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and he actually beat the seemingly unbeatable record held by Rob Blair, who for a long time he was the man pipped to. Everyone thought he would be the first over 300 kilos, and actually I think it's a guy from Finland who did that recently. And but I mean, both incredible. I'd love to see them compete together. Yeah, that would be an amazing event. On the Meathooks, I think let's see. So back on that one. So I was got on the record breakers there. This me trying to use this page is the only problem. Here we go. Yeah. So back on the Meathook, Serko Petterman. Do you know him? He's from Austria.
Yeah.
Lovely guy. If you ever meet him. Yeah, him and Patricia, I think they're engaged. Wonderful people. Unbelievable. The most generous people you could meet. Oh, she's amazing. The first time I saw her competing with a shallow hub, she just went for the women's world record, just grabbed it, and was up. It's just incredible what she does. Raw power, Serko, it's funny they're a couple because Serko's really about technique. He really studies things. He even comes up with his own techniques where it's loud,
I've noticed that.
He's come up, have you seen his special lifts for the for the dub hub? He'll literally best way to describe it is one or two fingers and a thumb, and he grabs it. It's an overhand grab where I think you describe it as a door handle grab, don't you? That sort of thing.
Yeah, we call it a doorknob grab. Yeah.
Doorknob, and I can't do it. I cannot. I honestly can't get anything with that. It's hilarious. He's just amazing at that. Serko, he's great at Meathook. He'd done all the practice. This guy Thomas Head, he was a new chap, massive guy. Never met him before. Yeah, I mean he did well across the board. Then we've got Stefan Falk. He's a lovely guy. He's also from Austria. Or is he German? I don't want to get it wrong. So I apologise, Stefan, if I get the wrong nationality. But he's, again, one of the nicest people you could... Yes. We were swapping advice all weekend over implements. So... he actually held the record before Michael Thomas beat his records on the finish ball, and I think Stefan's going to come back with that one, or one of the if not one of the Finnish guys. We're all going to be competing in August in the Bonehill Grip contest. And that's going to be one hell of a weekend. So,
where does that take place?
Good to tune in. It's happening right in the middle of nowhere. It's right on the lakes in Finland. I mean, it's a 2-hour train drive from the capital, and then it's a 45-minute car drive. And it's right where the lakes are, the big lakes in the middle, right up in the top of the country there, I think. And it looks beautiful from what I can tell. They've gained a bit of a reputation, the Finns, for these competitions. And I don't know if you recognise these yellow T-shirts everyone wears.
Yeah,
but we're all going to be wearing those. Yeah, I think it's Clay Edgin who's been to it before, or something similar. So there's usually American representatives there. And
you know what's interesting is I would host an arm wrestling tournament that was like maybe 20 minutes from an airport, and people would complain. And you're talking about train rides with car rides on top of train rides that are 2.5 hours from capitals, and take that, people.
Yeah, it's like that Steve Martin film, Planes, Trains and Automobiles.
Exactly.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
So
we're all going to be. Yeah, definitely. But it looks like quite a big sports hall it's in. So I think they've got a hotel actually on the same location. So Arto Joronen, he's a wonderful guy. He's he's about 60 years old. He's a incredible. He specialises in Euro pinch, and he's great sort of. He's a great advocate for the sport, but he's actually it's all him organising it. He's absolutely putting so much work into making it happen, and he should be recognised just for putting more competitions on the map and really actively getting hold of people and engaging with people and convincing a lot of people who, including myself, who've never competed abroad, So that's quite a power, to be able to make people do that. It's very, very good.
Well, that sounds good. I was introduced to him through seeing some of his videos with Juha, and I haven't seen Juha at all.
Juha Harju, What I can tell, I mean, he had that health problem where basically I don't know if it's adrenaline but there's a toxin that builds up in the blood and in the body through exertion.
It was rhabdo, right?
And he had
that's
rhabdo.
Exactly it.
Yeah.
Yes, and they had to actually bleed him or something like that. It was some drastic things that he had to have to sort of lower the concentration of this toxin in his system. And it's self-induced. It's something that big guys with big muscles they can get. And I really, it's a shame. He was the guy to beat for so many years, Juha, and be wonderful if I met him. Blimey,
Absolutely.
He did like an epic squat session or something like that, and that's what kind of set it off. But then I think no sooner did he start recovering though, or something like that, or maybe he didn't even recover, but things kind of went downhill like another step. And it just we just hadn't seen anything from him. He made a brief. It sounded like he was going to maybe take a run for hitting like the Mash Monster 7, I think, or something like that.
Right.
And then
I think he was on course for that.
Yeah, and this kind of blew up, and then he just disappeared. Didn't hear anything anymore. So I occasionally see something pop up.
Is it? I know you'd mentioned it in a program before. Was it? You can get it in the back, and because but the two biggest muscles, the glutes, and the leg muscles, and those big muscle sets. If there's any exercise that's going to do that, it's people go. Unfortunately, it's the people who do the best. It's the people at the top of the sport who put that extra bit of effort in.
Sure. It's pushing your body past the limits is what tends to develop rhabdo. So people shouldn't forget what he's done though. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. No, absolutely not. No, I mean, to me, like you had said, Juha was certainly one of the top guys in the world at any weight at all, and in just about every avenue of grip. So. And just an overall.
Did you want me to name a few off the top of my head? Yeah, I mean, he was the first person to be documented actually doing the two to 25 kilo plates.
Do you want to get something interesting
single-handed
about that?
Yeah.
Bob Sundin, who I train with, pinched the two 25-kilogram plates the following week. And
yes,
he had them up the week before, but they sort of slipped, and he put them down out of control, like he wasn't in control. So he didn't submit the video. And then Juha did it the following week under control, and then Bob did it the week after that. So
unbelievable.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, actually, I say unbelievable. That is very believable. I mean, Bob Sundin's a pinch maestro. He really is. It's wonderful to see what he does. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Other things. Yeah. I mean. Yeah, obviously, I love that kind of thing. It's the sort of thing that, okay, you think a guy like me with 6.6-inch hands, you think I would hate that kind of thing because I'm no good at it. But I you know, it's not just because I'm not good at something doesn't mean I don't want to. You still do the exercises, you know.
Sure.
I think you should do all the functional grip, whether you're good at it or not.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what Juha was good at, actually. I don't know if you've seen, but he wasn't the tallest guy. He didn't have the biggest hands, Juha. It's something that people need to realise. He was an average-sized man. He was actually he's a huge guy, muscular guy. But his actual height and stature was actually bang on average. And you know, to be able to do what he was doing amongst all the giants was incredible. And like you said, across the board, there's things he did that absolutely blew other people away, things that other people refused to do, like, you know, the good old one that Bob Sundin doesn't like maybe so much, the halfpenny. What did he say? He was pulling weeds or something like that.
Yeah.
But
well, you're the master at those. You are, and I wanted to ask you about a lot of that stuff after we covered, but you are the master of all of those. And what I would say is, it's like, you know, a lot of those are the feats that don't require larger hands. Like, you can have a smaller hand and do those feats of grip strength and do them as well as anyone, and you do them better than anyone.
Thanks. I think I need to remind people, though, if they're big and think it's a small man's game, until I beat the world record, the history was big hands on that. So a lot of people have told me to my face that they think it's a small hands game. It's not. It's just that. Yeah.
Yeah, I disagree with that too. I don't think it's a small man's game. I think, you know, it's one of those things where I don't think hand size comes into play as much. Whereas, like,
I think it's an even playing field. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, like, you know, I mean, a great example, like Gary Stewart, who trains with us, is going up to Legends, and you know, I was asked to go out there and announce the Legends event. Don't think that I'm going, but one of the things that certainly turned me off was the 2 3/8 inch axle. I mean, I got small hands, so a 2-inch axle is big enough. You know,
yes.
So a 2 3/8, I mean, that's just, it's like you're narrowing the field of people who can compete by having, you know, things that big. Whereas if you have things, as much as, you know, I'm not a fan of like the halfpenny or the stub or, you know, those sorts of, I'm not a fan personally, but at least it levels the playing field. At least it's something where people can say, it doesn't matter what your hand size is, you know, it's just going to matter what number you put up. Whereas,
I think they're attractive.
Size, yeah. So, and I definitely want to get to some other stuff about that. But anything else about the Meathook deadlift from this event?
Yeah. So I think the following day, I mean, it was really first on that first one, if I'm very quick on that first event, Stefan got 226 kilos, which that's a very respectable weight. I mean, bearing in mind that it sounds like it's way down on other numbers, but and bearing in mind Stefan is a heavyweight.
Yeah.
It's actually more than what David Horn was getting last year, and David Horn is as strong as he's ever been. So it's not everyone's cup of tea, that the Meathook, you know. So it's definitely some technique there, you know.
Yeah, and
yeah,
definitely
and
still a strong
yeah,
leg.
I mean, oh yeah, I mean Elizabeth Horn, what was it? It was 176.85 kilos. She's just amazing, you know. She's got big hands. I don't know if you've ever, if you want to know if someone's got an ace in the pack, Elizabeth has the perfect hands for grip. She's just they're the perfect sized hands for nearly every grip implement, including plate pinching. I know that I think it was Jed who brought up the fact that she did the next event was the loose plate pinching, and she actually got the 220 kilo plates.
Yeah,
and
I
think
I was the one actually that brought that to their attention. That I had never seen another woman pinch 2 20-kilogram plates or 245 pound plates, and I was looking at the video of her doing that, and I was amazed that she gets a better rap on those 2 plates than I would.
Yeah, it's her hands. They're really
hands,
yeah, and I have seen someone do it before. I've seen her do it before.
Yeah,
well,
I've
seen her do it
before.
I think I think she did it. Must have been 3
there
or 4
is an older
years
video.
ago, but
yeah, there's an older video. Some of those type of feats, she's got quite a bit from several years back.
Yeah.
She even had some thicker handle dumbbell lifts and stuff like that, if I'm not mistaken. She's got, it seemed like there was a span where we maybe didn't see a whole lot from her, but it was, she's kind of been doing this stuff all along, it seems like. You just got to dig.
Well, Jerome, let me ask you this. Have you ever seen another woman pinch 2 20-kilogram plates?
No. I'm sure there must be. I mean, the thing is, Becca Roberts probably could. She's busy with her strongwoman stuff. She's one of these people who she tends to have to, just because of her training regime, she's quite a professional, if you know what I mean. She's a real pro as far as game plan and absolutely doing the correct training for something, and consequently she does train for the tournament she's going for. So a lot of the time she just isn't doing the grip. And even though she's amazing at grip, she'll be doing the strong woman stuff most of the time. Every time I've seen Becca hit a grip implement, sometimes it's the first time she's touched the things, and she'll be lifting close to records on her first attempts, you know. So it's just this. I think she's still really young. I think she's doing the right thing in sort of not wasting the opportunity as far as what her talent is, you know, as far as the strong woman thing. And she's got plenty of time to get back onto the grip. I don't think she's doing King Kong this year. I think she's had to pull out of the Bonehill, all because of this year she's really got her mind set on the strong woman thing. But yeah, I mean, pinching, anything like that, she's got, I mean, I've shaked Becca's hands enough times to know that she's got 8+ inch hands. I mean, she's I mean, well over 8.5, something like that. But she's a 6'3" girl who weighs. What was she on? The last time I saw her weigh in, she was 28 stone. So at one of the competitions I was at. So she's a big girl, you know, and she's just gifted, and she's fitter than I am. You know, she's considering she's a big girl. She's got she's fast. You know, she's got everything you need for that sort of. Yeah. I would be annoyed of her if she got distracted. You know, honestly, I think that it's. Yeah, I think she's doing the right thing.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right, the next
going after that now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so the loose plates.
Yeah. Yeah,
so Thomas Head, this guy Thomas Head, he big guy, I've not met him before, 35-second hold of 220s, which is impressive. Oh yeah. This guy Tom Limeth, again, I'd not met him before, 31 seconds, and Sam Parker, I think it's oh God, I'm modelling these guys up because there's this massive guy who's I should look him up on. Do you have access to Instagram? But I mean, this chap who he's the only guy you mentioned previously from that competition who was playing around with plates and things.
Yeah, I believe that was Dan Parker that Jed talked about.
Right.
Yep.
Well, he apparently he's the first British guy to lift over 1,000 kilos in powerlifting for total.
Wow.
So that's all three, and he's wider than a door. I mean, he's amazing. Just a character, and he's not the tallest guy. I would say he's about 5'9", 5'10", and at the most. And we were having some great fun plate sort of doing hubbing and stuff afterwards. He was having a good go at the 45 plate, you know. I had to. The trouble is, I'm a little guy, you know. It's little guy syndrome. If you're 5'2" and 145 pounds, and you've got a 25 stone guy sort of just lifting something up, having never tried it before, you want to somehow go one up on him, you know. So I think he lifted the 45 plate first time and curled it the first time. So I curled it, and then he cleaned it. So he cleaned this whole thing to his head. So I cleaned it, and then where do you go from there? So I thought, well, I'll try it with two fingers and a thumb. So I managed that, and just sort of it's a problem little people like me have. You know, we don't like being beaten. You know.
Oh,
well, anyway, so he was phenomenal. You know. Moving on, we had event for me on the third event, Halfpenny hold. I don't know. It wasn't for me in that David didn't deliberately do it because I was there. He didn't know I was going to go, and I think he tends to give each year. He'll go through the grip tops and he'll give one, say, a few competitions, and I think it keeps it live, you know. So he will not just stay on one implement year in, year out, and so it's come round to the Halfpenny again. And the thing is, if it was me, I wouldn't do it for an open competition like that, because a lot of people don't know what they're doing with it. So you get people who grab at this thing, and I think it's a bit unfair, in all honesty, that I'm trying to coach them beforehand to get the best numbers out of them, but it's quite an ask, you know, to get someone to go for really a technique-based thing like that. It's something that requires a very even pinch. I've gone over this sort of in the past about this over pinch you can have with a key style pinch. There's a pinch where you get your thumb slightly over the front of the knuckle, and it will absolutely kill your lifts, and people don't realize they're doing it. Your thumb has to be absolutely next to the index finger knuckle, and you get these people who and it absolutely helps you if you're doing something like a double key style pinch lift of, say, a hub. But it will hinder you when it comes to the Halfpenny. Yeah. So
describe that again.
Like while you're talking, I'm sitting there playing around with my thumb up against my index finger.
I literally am too, actually. That's
in this spot, and I'm like, okay, the knuckle. All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
give me on the same page with you guys here. So where are you talking about putting your?
So your thumb has to, the end of your thumb needs to go firmly onto the side of that index finger knuckle, and you have to crank your thumb, the side of the knuckle, and you have to crank. Yeah, well, it's the first up from your hand. Well, it's the middle knuckle, isn't it? The main punching knuckle.
I see.
From your hand, from your hand down. Like
there's the leading. The boxer's knuckle, and well, no, that wouldn't be. That would be I'm wrong, aren't I? The boxer's knuckle's the one nearest to the hand, isn't it? But no, it's the middle knuckle. And the thing is that you have to cock your thumb knuckle out, a little bit like hub lifting. You've got to actively make. It's a deadlift, and you've got to make it live. So anything like any sort of isometric type lift, like a halfpenny or any grip top, it's all about how do you make a deadlift active, how do you get your muscles to actually all work, because your muscles will not be used to pulling on a static position, and the problem people have if they just grab at a halfpenny is that their hands just slip straight off because they're not applying anything through those fingers. You have to clamp down on that thing, you have to commit to it, and you've got to be patient, and it will come. So there was guys who actually got lots of practice. I convinced a couple of them to do lots of practice lifts because they're not going to fatigue fast when they're not very good at it. So why not get lots of practice lifts? So in the end, some very impressive feats actually. So Serco, who's best practiced of all of them out there, got 15 seconds of 16 kilos. I only got a bit over him that. I got 18 seconds. Considering I was in practice getting well into the 20 seconds, so I was disappointed because I was chasing chasing the world record, but on the day it just didn't happen. So Ruben Hughes, he can pick up anything and do well. I mean, he's amazing. 9 seconds. If you've ever tried lifting 16 kilos of the halfpenny, it's not an easy thing. I remember when I was starting out. Yeah.
So what would the halfpenny with one of David Horn's loading pins and a 25-pound plate add up to?
Well, the loading pin is 1.5 kilos. So the Grip Top's halfpenny, my halfpenny, if I've measured them exactly, so my Grip Top's loading pin, my current one, is 1.55 kilos, and my Grip Top's halfpenny is 0.6 kilos. So they average out at half a kilo. So what was that, 1.1 pounds, something like that. So it's exactly the same as the stub. It's the same as tiny bit under what the finished ball is. A lot of these things are pretty much the same. The shallow hub is actually 3/4 of a kilo, so a little bit heavier. Interestingly, Gil Goodman's his things tend to be a little lighter because they're aluminium. So the dub hub is about half a kilo because it's got 2 hubs on it. So I remember we had a 25-pound plate on the loading pin, one of David Horn's loading pins with the halfpenny, and it was just it was terrible. It was the worst thing ever. It was so awful. So to lift that up and hold it for 18 seconds, and I think with any of those, even like with silver bullets, stuff like that, it's like all you got to do is let up the slightest bit for like just a split second, and that's slipping out of your hand. So it's a lot of concentration too, I would think. Yeah, it's not the sort of thing you can get off balance with. I don't know if you ever, if I ever do I'm the only person to do 21 kilos for more than 5 seconds. So it's in practice. But if you see it puts so much torque on the wrist, because I've not got very strong wrists. I'm an arm wrestler previously, but it really does deflect the wrist down, and the problem there is that it's a lift where if you've got more pressure on one side, you drop it. So you're constantly battling to keep that keep an even pinch, and as I would say if you want to have a long hold, activate your lift a bit. So sort of start low and lift it higher as you go through the lift. And you actually help to counteract a bit of that that lopsidedness that's going to happen as one side fatigues, So, it's a bit of it's annoying. You grab it and you think, this is great, and then in no time at all you think, damn, I'm losing it, So,
sure,
the next one after that was,
No, go ahead.
So no, it's okay. You go ahead.
I was going to say in that pickaxe lever to rear, I saw that number 9.25 kilograms. I was thinking to myself, that was Reuben Hughes. I was thinking to myself, that is so that is the lift where you have to balance the little ball on it, right?
Yeah, it sucks, It's an English statement, so it sucks means it absolutely blows, It's a painful thing. It's and don't get me wrong, a lot of people have done timed holds of pickaxes and pickaxes for training purposes where it's not strict to height, which is great. I mean, I've got nothing against partial lifts in training. It's actually very good, as you were talking about last week, for in arm wrestling, you need to do partials as well as full range.
Absolutely.
But you've got to put it into perspective. The height of that bar that you have to get it to is ridiculous. It's a high bar. And it means that effectively, no matter what height you are, effectively you're bringing it to parallel. So you're bringing a heavy weight up behind you to parallel. And for me, it's worse. I had to stand on 2 railway sleepers in order to even get the height. And Reuben, that 9.25 flew up.
That's
that
amazing.
That was nowhere near his potential, believe me.
Wow.
He wanted David's record. Now, David Horn still holds the record of 11 kilos, I think. And I remember when he did it. I was actually there when he did it, and he was unstoppable when he was doing that. And David's wrist never deflected. It's not he's got one of these freakish wrists where it just doesn't bend, when he's doing that. But Reuben seemed to be human. You could see his wrist deflecting, but he just hit it. I mean, it's fantastic. He has an ambition, though. He had one thing in mind, and David, if you ever go to one of David's competitions, he's like the earworm. He'll be playing at your confidence, not deliberately, but he'll be saying, "Oh, do you think you've only got one lift left? Do you want to be doing that? Surely you just want to be safe. Go for just a little bit more." And but then he'll put down just as. Oh, but he's both. He's the devil and the, what is it? The devil on one shoulder, the angel on the other. He'll play both. He's like Gollum in Lord of the Rings. He'll be changing from one character to the other. So no second as it's come out of his mouth, he's saying, "Oh, you've got to be careful." He'll be saying, "But then again, you could go for my record." So of course. Reuben's still young. I think he's in his 30s or something, and a bit of pride. So he went for much heavier weight and didn't get it. And so I think on the day he probably had 10 kilos in him, which is ridiculous.
9.25 on that lift is a really good number. That's an excellent number. So nothing. Yeah,
it's another one that. No, not at all. I think it's another one that Michael Thomas is very good at. It's funny how Michael's one of these guys who's underrated because people seem to spot him on some things and not realise how good an all-round athlete. So I think there's over in America there's the up-and-coming guys, not young. I mean, Michael Thomas is in his 50s, but he is an all-round athlete. If you ever, you need to just get out of your mind any thoughts that Michael has any weak game. Reuben's the same in England. There's everything he's good at. And Sam Parker, he finally got an event that he's good at. So he's actually any practice at all. Honestly, any practice, and that guy is going to be winning. Sam Parker. He just didn't have the experience, and I felt for him because he turned up and he was a lovely guy, and he got 8.99 kilos for his first attempt at a pickaxe. Is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Unbelievable. Yeah, Serco got 8.12. Thomas Head 6.99. Now it drops way down. Stefan Falk 6.99. Now a lot of these sound like low numbers, but you have to bear in mind that they've got to keep that metal ball bearing on a small. What it is David's actually glued a nut into the top of the pickaxe, so it comes out, and the timed holds, my arm shakes in timed holds on that thing. The lift, you'll find that the pickaxe will drift to one side as you lift it. If it's right near your PR, it's going to drift out one way, and the marble's going to drop. So it's a lot of us, you'll find your wrist deflects as well. So your hand buries into the top of, if you imagine when you're in arm wrestling, when you're posting, and your hand comes up, and it actually your bones are effectively making contact with your arm bones there, if you imagine when you pull your shoulder forwards, your hand comes up behind you with that pickaxe, and that weight is absolutely forcing your hand into your arm, and it feels like you've got blowtorch on your hand, on your arm, or the wrist. It's incredibly painful. I was very happy. In the end, I got 6 kilos, 6.05, which I was disappointed with because I got air 2 times in a row on what would have been a world record, but I couldn't. I was a fraction off height, and believe me, I hit a wall. That thing, I could not give any more. So, believe it or not, I've got an identical twin brother called Paul, and he has held the world record for the lightweights, 59 kilos category.
Did he arm wrestle?
With that. Yeah, not a lot. He basically, I took him to a few tournaments.
Yeah, but I remember the name. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Paul Bloom, he did a bit of arm wrestling back in 2010, 2011. We went to the same tournaments, and then I stayed with it, and he just was too busy with his powerlifting because he's more of a deadlifter. Paul's a 56-kilo guy who deadlifted 200 kilos, so he, I've seen him, I've seen him do 180 kilos for reps. Then he had a kid, so you know what's happening next. He had a kid and he had to go backwards a bit. Yeah. But I mean, when he was strong, he was incredible. And he's like mini me. He's 2 inches shorter than me, so he's 5 foot exactly. Phenomenally small person. Paul's.
What is your? You guys must have some heck of a sibling rivalry going on.
Yeah, it used to be.
What does that look
I used
like?
to be over.
Well, go ahead.
Well, we used to. Paul used to be the fit guy. He was the guy with the 6-pack, and I was the fat guy. I was the fat twin. And I fell out with a girlfriend and ended up sleeping on my brother's floor. And I was depressed and overweight, and so Paul was a fitness fanatic, and he had me going down to a gym every single day, just doing weightlifting. And he was so much stronger than me, and he always led the way. So he sort of coached me, and I used to then years later go and visit him once or twice a week, and he had all the records before me. He had world records the first year he competed in grip, and it took me 4 years before I even had a single record, and now I've got 30 world records. So it's sort of, but he doesn't compete anymore, and some of his records still stand. So, I mean, it says a lot about him, really, that you don't get a lot of not a lot of tiny guys who can sort of do that. He's one for.
Will we see a return of Paul Bloom?
I don't think so. He's a bit of a. He loves his sort of calisthenic type things, more body weight sort of exercises.
Gotcha.
And he'll always be doing a little bit of powerlifting just because he loves it. He doesn't like losing it completely. Grip, well, trying to convince him to do it. Maybe in future. He's got a son, and I would love to get both of them back into it. It would be great if his son took it up at some point, And but I mean, I would say that because it's my sport. So who knows?
Yeah.
The next event was snapping a grade 5 bolt or a 6-inch nail, and so snapping. What's your view on snapping? Well, what do you think as far as grip is concerned?
Well, I mean, it's exhausting. I wouldn't consider it a feat of grip strength. I think it's definitely it's an awesome feat of strength, but not just. I don't know that I would include it in something. If I was calling something a grip competition, don't know if I would include it. I do think that like something like that was held. Was it recently the Michigan steel bending championship and breaking? Wasn't it breaking, tearing, something like that? Yeah, I mean that's cool. That definitely fits there. Maybe not in a grip competition, but it's David Horn's event, so he can do whatever the hell he wants.
I just I look at his competitions and think. I look at his family. They're like Marines, They're him and his wife and his daughters there, and his sons actually. He's got grown-up sons and he's got younger daughters, and they're all phenomenal immediately. I mean, they're all his daughter has only just turned 13, and she's already beating adults in martial arts official competitions. Yeah, and she's snapping nails and bending steel, and they're quite a family. So I mean I understand why they like doing it. I promised myself I wasn't going to do it, and then pride. I ended up picking up one nail and didn't finish. I lost all the feeling in the left-hand side of my body and just stopped. So it's a bit difficult when you've got 3 ribs missing to actually. I'm still not.
Bending.
Yeah, people think I can just do anything I used to do, and the truth is, there's some things I can do that I could never do, and there's some things I used to do that I'll never do again. I mean, it's the only reason I got into grip in the first place was because I got a ruptured disc in my back. So then I thought, well, the back surgeon said I need to be doing squats. So I did grip because it was a good thing to do, relatively light weights and good, getting everything nice and tight, and my back healed. And then unfortunately I had to give up arm wrestling because of my chest problem, and my condition up until 2017 was deteriorating so badly that I was worried I was going to have to give everything up. So after surgery, nearly 2 years later, and I'm now great, but I can't feel my left-hand side of my chest. And if you've got something like steel bending, you've got your whole body it's a full body activity. You've got to have everything working. And it's like having an area of your body that has no feeling at all. It's like you don't know what it's doing. You don't know whether it's putting anything into this part of the activity. So I've got a lot of respect for the people who are good at it. Rubin, what a surprise! he thrashed everyone. In fact, Rubin got just in on the minute. Wonderful to watch him do it. He doesn't bend it too much. David Horn, he'll bend it to its limit on the first bend almost, and then keep doing it. I mean, it's just crazy how strong David Horn is. But Rubin's more, I would say, efficient, and he's got great technique. So, Rubin's stronger than everyone else other than David. You know, David's heads over him as far as steel bending, but I think David actually, I don't know, people have to retire for some reason. I think that I can't see myself retiring. I think Rubin, I hope he sticks with it for a long, long time. I'm very happy every time I see him turning up at an event. You know, he's just, you really feel happy when someone sticks with the sport, you know. And this guy Tom Limeth, actually, I hope he sticks with it, because he got it in 2 minutes 6 seconds, the grade 5. Stefan Falk, he got a grade 5 bolt. So just that's the US grade of steel. So if you're in Europe, it's actually, I think grade 5 is the same as an 8.8 grade steel if you're an engineer. And if you're like an engineer, then a grade 8 US is the same as something like an 11 grade steel in Europe. And what it is, if anyone's wondering what these grade 5 bolts are, a grade 5 bolt doesn't mean anything as far as the building industry is concerned. A grade 5 is this type of steel. That's all it is. And it just so happens that in grip, we use a 6-inch long nail that's about, I don't know what 6 millimeters is in, it's about 5 or 6 millimeters. I don't know what that is in inches, but it's a particular thickness. And the grade 8, by definition, in grip, is the same size. So in order for them to be fairly compared, you have to have exactly the same sized bolt. So a grade 8 is just a whisker under a iron mined red nail, and David has snapped 2 grade 8s in a row before, I think. So it's something that I wish he was competing. It's just fun watching him do it, you know. Elizabeth Horn came fourth.
Really well,
she beat Serco. Which is great. She got it 8 minutes and 39. Serco is one of my very best friends as far as this sport's concerned. So I'm not giggling because I wanted him to do badly. I think it shows how athletic Elizabeth is and how phenomenally strong she is. I mean, she's nowhere near what she has been. You know. You were right. You were mentioning before that she used to be stronger. She used to be a lot heavier. She was well into the 80s for kilos. You know, she used to be just under 200 pounds or something like that, and she was one of the world's strongest women. And now she's slimmed down. She's a real athlete, and she's still got a lot of her strength. She's not really lost it, but she's not beating her records. And as far as the grip tops, a lot of these isometric type lifts, so the hub lifts and the grip top, you know, Halfpenny, all those sorts of things, I think it would take a lot of work for her to get back to her best in those. But more active lifts, you know, she's still right up there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, legendary for sure, some of the stuff that I've seen her do. And, even snapping a grade 5 bolt in however much time it took her. But, 8 minutes, 39 seconds is still an unbelievable feat. So
it's great.
Cool.
And everyone encouraging each other, people who listen and don't compete. People can do what they want, but I have to tell people to take part in these events. It's a small sport, and we need as many people as possible competing in these things. And people enjoy themselves. It's something that it's not like an arm wrestling tournament where it's just all adrenaline and noise. And it's in all honesty, we encourage each other in arm wrestling, but it's like a family. In grip, everyone it's just encouraging each other to do the best they can for themselves, and to get PRs, and it's something unlike any other sport I've seen like that. Arm wrestling, James, it's something you're very much knowledgeable on, but I don't know what it's like in America, but in England, arm wrestling tournaments, it's all thrash metal noise music, and
that's a new
kids
thing,
running around.
You got to realize, Jerome, when I started, it was back in the 90s, and like, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I played a lot of street basketball. Like, I played at some of the better playgrounds in the Northeast. And what I didn't like about basketball was that, it was just all this mouth and everybody talking smack to each other, and it just got old. So when I figured out that I could arm wrestle, at least against, guys in college dorms and guys at the pizza restaurant that I worked at, when I realized that I could do that pretty well, and people were like, go to a tournament, I was like, well, I expected to go to a tournament and have it be exactly what you're describing. And it was it was the contrary. It was, all really great guys who, if you lost to them, they'd pull you aside and say, hey, you got a lot of upside. This is what I see you should work on. And if you want, I can, show you a few different exercises for that. And it was just really a lot of camaraderie and kind of like the family atmosphere that you're describing grip as now. Now, over the years, as some people would say arm wrestling evolved, I say it devolved, but over the years, it's become more of that. It's become more of, well, we got to put on a show so that people can look at us kind of thing. And I've never been in it for that. I was in it for
what was that
the
TV program? There was, the U.S. TV program, they had just the one series of it where it was various...
I was approached by that.
I liked it, but... Oh, it was dreadful as far as the... No, as far as... I liked the series, but it was not good for the image of the sport because it was all popcorn arm wrestling where people were shouting. You got people arguing on camera who I've never seen argue together before. You see people who I know get on at each other's throats.
Yeah, it was disingenuous. And I was approached at the Arnolds to be on the show one year. And it was, I was in the first commercial they had on A&E. And at the time, it was, A&E had a show on that was big. I can't remember what it was, but everybody was watching this show. And it was debuting after that. And all these people called up and said, oh, you're in this commercial. And I was wondering why, because at the Arnold, when I saw what the production was, it was basically, hey, listen, you're going to arm wrestle this guy, and I want you to yell, and then this guy's going to come over and throw money on the table. And it was like this unscripted but basically choreographed thing. And I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. So I basically told them I wasn't interested.
Yeah, it's I like the way WAL's going as far as it's a bit more of a audience sort of a thing, but it's still a bit pumped up for my own liking.
Yeah.
It's
well, pardon my.
I understand.
I think it's bullshit.
I think they just. I think people are organising these things. Are thinking one thing: how do they get more bums on seats and more people watching the sport?
Yeah. And I know that's it. And I know there are a lot of guys that just want to see themselves on TV or whatever. And it's like, for me, it's like, I don't know, I've been on TV enough, and it doesn't really, it just doesn't do anything for me. You know what I mean? Nothing is worth me selling out who I am and being disingenuous for any reason. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, you end up. So do you feel that you were not the same, not yourself on these things?
Well, I never even did it. I went on and I was doing this one thing, and they had me refereeing these two guys, and I was just like, this is stupid. And I was making comments the whole time, and the cameraman was like, went over to this guy, I think his name was Ben or something, one of the directors, and he goes, he's like, oh, I keep picking up the audio of the referee. He keeps making comments. And he came over to me and he's like, hey, can you not make comments? I was like, well, it's ridiculous. So if it wasn't ridiculous, if it's not ridiculous, I won't make comments. But it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make comments. Maybe you need another referee. You know what I mean? And that was the extent of my experience with Game of Arms. So.
Yeah, and there's that whole cameras got to have priority over the number of refs thing, which have one guy who very experienced ref, but he's not going to see everything. It's not going to be a fair match.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing too. Is it's like when things are made for TV, as they have been with the WAL, and it's like, and this was my thing with the PAL too. If you only give guys a minute to 2 minutes in between matches, matches go straight to the straps. It's like, I don't know. It's like if I'm competing against somebody, I want two things. I want to be at my best. I want them to be at their best. I don't want them to be coming off a long match with no rest, and I don't want to be coming off a long match with no rest. I want to be at peak strength. I want them to be at peak strength. So,
isn't it the best thing to get? Yeah, to if you lose, it's the best thing to get to lose well. To know that you put your best in, that you were given a fair chance.
Yeah, win, lose, no excuses. I was watching this thing recently about a guy named George Brett, who's a baseball player here, and he was talking about how he won a World Series, and it meant a lot because, he played on this team called the Kansas City Royals, and he played his whole career there. But he said nothing felt like winning this little club golf tournament that he won after he retired from baseball, because it all fell on his shoulders. He couldn't make any excuses if they lost. He couldn't say, oh, well, I had a good game, but we lost. Or if they won and he played horribly, he couldn't say, didn't play well, but we won. It was just him out there on the golf course, and it was him against himself essentially. And that's what I liked about arm wrestling, I guess. There weren't any excuses. You lost, and that's it. It's like, all right, well, back to the drawing board. What do I have to do now? So I don't know. That's what I liked about it. You arm wrestled too. I don't know. I mean, what did you like about it?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, something like the British, any like a national championship, you feel like it's a fairer field because people are just, it's not an audience, it's just fellow arm wrestlers, and we're just there doing our best. I did do Arm Wars once, which was Neil Pickup's thing. Now, that one was difficult because I'd been coming off of an illness. I thought I was just about getting strong again. So, in all fairness, I was getting some decent strength back, having lost a bit. But, the thing that I didn't like about it was it got me so pumped up. I've got a guy in front of me who's a good friend. And Ian Stones and these guys are brilliant. He's such a good professional arm wrestler, and I just got just got pumped up, and it was getting all because of this one ref thing. There's the cameras and just one ref. Difficult for the setup, because usually in a proper arm wrestling match, you've got one person to check line, and you've got another person to check the hands, the actual grip, and to give the call. So it's a fairer
you got somebody
situation.
Looking at both wrists. Yeah.
Absolutely, So, to make a call as to whether it's a out of position, whether it's a foul on the wrists or on the elbow, or whether it's slipping in an advantage or anything like that. Well, it was fun. I mean, I don't know if I'd do it again, but it wasn't a proper match in that sense. It was a difficult match because of the circumstances. It's very difficult to do it's almost like if you're doing a grip competition, we get good at grip competitions because we're used to that environment. And, we're used to, a lot of us, we go to these things and it's a comfort zone. As soon as you're out on a stage of sorts, you're in a familiar territory, you're comfortable, you can give yourself a good chance. But you're in front of cameras, you're being briefed about this thing, you're in an arena, it's with a televised thing, it's a completely different thing. Your whole game plan is out the window. It's a very different thing, and we act different to each other. It's me bashing the table, and being aggressive, and it's something I'd never do normally. And I'm quite a mild-mannered person.
Yeah, and I know that's one of the things that Neil, and I have tremendous respect for Neil Pickup, and I think that the Arm Wars series that he put on was like the longest running televised series on Eurosport, right, for arm wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. It went on longer than anything that we've done in North America. Neil himself was a great, and I can't stress this enough, natural arm wrestler. So I have tremendous respect for Neil. But I also know that Neil was the kind of guy that wanted guys to be disingenuous and get riled up and yell at each other and, and slam tables and all that other stuff. So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, he never egged people on. I mean, Neil, as far as I think that, yes, he would have been pleased about some matchups that had fire, real. You could tell that that's going to be good TV. But he wouldn't force it out of people. Actually, Neil's such a professional. He's a modest guy. Actually, if you talk to him, he's very approachable, and he doesn't force people into these situations. But he'll put interesting pairings together. He knows he used to try over these Arm War things. He'd put interesting pairs together, see what would happen, and some might not have made. I don't know if some actually got covered. Some of them might have been filmed and then not televised. I mean, my one, I never was told when it was airing, and then I only saw it about 4 or 5 years after I filmed it. On the YouTube, someone just told me that it happened to be on there, and I'd forgotten I'd ever done it almost. And so, yeah,
it's funny how that happens, huh?
Yeah. Anything else? If I let you, if you want to lead the way, I mean, just as far as the rest of Grip is concerned, you're the host.
Well, sure. I wanted to, I do, because I do have to get off of here soon. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you, and I hope it's not too personal a question, was I know that you had those 3 ribs removed, and you also had a bone in your left arm removed, I saw.
Well, not the arm. I've got one in my left arm that hasn't been removed. It still causes problems, but I've got a bone condition where I've got these large spurs. They're kind of they're really bone they're non-cancerous bone tumors, and most of them they stopped when I stopped growing, which was a long time ago. But and I've got them in a few places, but there was one that grew afterwards in my chest, and I only found out about it when I was getting chest pains. Chest pains when I hit about 30 years old, and for 10 years they were MRIing me just to follow the progress of this tumor, just to make sure it's not going malignant, So this thing was as big as a thumb, and it was protruding into my lungs, so it was actually causing me damage. And that's one of the reasons why I gave up arm wrestling. Well, I didn't give it up. I had to stop for a while just because it was physically bruising the inside of me.
I can imagine,
so in 2017, I go under thinking I'm going to wake up with 1 fewer ribs. And I woke up with 3 fewer ribs because apparently my body had calcified 3 ribs together. It's the body's way of protecting itself. So you get a foreign object or a tumor or something, and the body is a brilliant thing. The body protects itself by reinforcing itself and putting calcium deposits in that area. And
sure.
it meant that they had to remove a lot of my chest. So now I've got mesh where that used to be, and it's a bit of a mental thing. It's sort of trying to convince myself I'm okay when I can't feel that part of my chest, because along with 3 ribs went 3 nerves, so 3 major nerves. Yeah. So I'm never going to remove. I'm never going to feel. Yes, I'm never going to feel that part of my chest again. So I'm always having to be careful not to bump into things. When I'm arm wrestling now, because I've got back into it, if I'm arm wrestling on the left-hand side, it just screws you up in the head. I have to lean on the right-hand side, so that I'm not leaning on the dodgy part of my chest. Sure. And and in lifting, any 2-handed lifts are a little bit weird at the moment. So whereas I was lifting over 100 pounds double key pinch on the shallow hub before my operation, in fact I've managed timed holds with 100 pounds on double key pinch. Now I can't physically brace that part of my body, so the muscles still work. They're all there. They didn't damage anything, but they don't do what I want them to do. So I have to just have faith that some things are going to work because other things work, and it kind of affects double hand lifts. So Euro pinch, weirdly, I'm actually as good as I've ever been on that. So I think you can lean into that. It's got you can use your shoulders a bit. It's not such a problem. So
sure.
Yeah, it's something that I'm just going to have to live with. And bearing in mind, it's better out than in. If you're going to have a cancer threat, you've got to deal with it. And you get what you're given. You just do the best you can.
Sure. One thing I'd like to ask you, just because I'm nowhere near this kind of weight on a hub, but we were talking at training the other day about different 100-pound plates that look like they actually have a pretty decent hub on them, like it would be a believable lift. Now, you're one of those guys who's gone over 90 pounds on a hub. Do you believe that you could? Yeah. Do you believe that you?
But that's an Iron Mind hub.
Plate? Yeah, but
I don't know because it's a very different beast.
It is.
I've thrown 55 kilo plates around, So
yeah.
I can lift a 55, not kilo, sorry, pound. Oh God, it's 25 kilos is 55 pounds. Everybody. So no, it's a 55-pound plate that I can lift very easily. In fact, I want to try and clean the thing next time I'm at the Commando Temple in London. But it's another thing entirely if you're trying to lift something like the Iron Mind hub, but on a fixed plate, because it's such a dead weight. You have to get your thumb position perfect. You can't bail out. It's not like with an Iron Mind hub, you can use the other hand to just get you to assist your hand position. Then when you're almost guaranteeing you've got a level lift and that you're getting your knuckle placements right. When you're leaning down on a plate, you're off balance. The center of gravity is actually different with a hub, a real hub plate. If you imagine, it shifts the center of gravity towards your finger knuckles because the middle of the hub is in that direction. So it's pulling away from your thumb far more. And unlike an Iron Mind hub where you can put more torque into your thumb, because of the fact that it's a loose item, relatively speaking, with a dead implement like that, you're not going to get any movement out of it. So it's a very fair test. I mean, hats off to anyone who can lift big hub plates, and shallow ones at that. So
yeah.
I don't know. The answer is I don't own any deep hub plates. I dream of owning deep hub plates. I know James Fuller owns a wonderful collection of the things, and I just drool every time I look at those things. And if I'm ever going to own them, I'm going to have a collection of them. I'm determined at some point. But in England, we don't get these things. They're really rare, and we just don't have them. So there's not a lot of old York plates going around. There's not a lot of these, any of these older plates. And if they ever are up on the market, then they're always collect in person. I always get, feel depressed when I see something in Scotland, which I really want, and I know I'm never going to have it because they're not going to ever post it. So.
Yeah, I didn't realize you didn't have one at all. I just assumed, I guess, that you had a deep dish plate.
No.
Wow.
Don't own one. No. All my training is on grip tops. So and ironmind hub. Ironmind, okay, they're not everyone's favourite at the moment in because of the rules, but I still highly rate them for training. And absolutely. The Ironmind Hub has benefited me with many other events. It's something that I'll always put into a training session. And even when I'm unwell, and I've had a flu for the last 2 weeks, so I've just got over it. But I'll still include. You can really hit heavy weights, and it helps you with that tolerance, with the tightening everything up, with getting. That when you're trying to break ground with dead weights, often the problem is that you can't go up a notch. You can't get into the next gear, you feel.
Yep.
You're stuck in no man's land. Well, if you're going for a much heavier implement, that's a looser implement like an Ironmind Hub in training, then you have to apply yourself. It forces you to go into the next gear. So you get used to what it's like to actually put more, not more effort, to actually apply more force. And when you know what it's like to apply more force, it gives you a better chance in lighter implements, because you know how to apply those muscles a bit more. It wakes you up.
Yeah.
So often I'll start with an Ironmind Hub and end up on everything else, and it wakes you up. It's better than caffeine or anything. This whole
no coffee.
Yeah, I mean the
Ironmind Hubs.
Yeah, I'll have one. Yeah. I mean it's you're going to have a good week in training or even in competition when you're getting over 5 seconds on, say, 84 pounds. And then you're not that immediately that you've got some work to do if you're somewhere in the 70s for a hold, or as far I should be talking percentages rather than weights. So if you're like in the 80s, it sounds like a high percentage, 80% capacity, but if you're lifting 80% of your PR in a lot of these things, it's just not good enough. It's no good to be doing massive reps of low weights. You've got to be hitting the 90% capacity every day in order to maintain the taut nature of the tendons and the condition of your muscles. Yeah, I train 7 days a week.
Wow, on the same implements.
What I do is I train every day. I'll use there's usually hubs. The things like the smaller grip tops tend to come in and out depending on what competition I'm training for. So at the moment I've got the finished ball because I've got the Bonehill competition where they're going to include that. At the moment I've got out an axle, which I'm no good at, but I'm going to try and get some time in on that because they're going to be doing that in Bonehill. There's the gold bar, which is I'm rubbish at, but I still unbelievably, against all odds, I still hold a lightweight world record in it. But I know that I've got a lot a long way to go on that. You know, you feel with that event with the gold bar that there's, you know, when you lift it and it slips, you know it's not happening, and it's going to be, there'll be a year when I'm good at it. You know, that sort of event. What else have they got? They've got the crusher. So that's going to be fun. I have tiny hands, but weirdly, I like the crusher.
Really?
It's a heavy implement. Yeah,
it is. I do like the density of it. Yeah.
It's great, isn't it? Cylindrical things are lighter and slicker, and I say more difficult. The Rolling Thunder is light, but it tends to be a bit erratic. Whereas there's a bit more consistency with the crusher, and there's this wonderful feeling of weight in your hand and being able to kind of hit your fingertips on that thing. It's quite a nice thing to 6.5-inch hand on a thing like that isn't going to lift heavy weights, but I mean it's fun to train with. So I've only got a Slerical one, so it's sort of a, who knows. Do either of you actually have any competitions at all this summer?
I do not. I mean, I was invited to go to something with Dennis Rogers at the end of this month, which is going to be at Slim the Hammerman's place. Probably we'll be doing a lot of stuff there. I would love to take the shoulder out for a ride, because I had that repaired in October.
Yeah, how's that getting on?
Bending. It's
right.
You know, it's way better than it was, but it's taken a long time. There's certain lifts that I can do as well as I could do before, and there's other ones that especially any kind of chest related or shoulder related work is it's coming along slow. We'll put it that way. How about you, Alan?
Yeah.
I have Joel Dirks and I are hosting a competition at the end of this month. Yeah. I won't be competing in it. I'm just going to be judging. Also, a shoulder-related thing is going to be holding me out of that. But yeah, that's what I have on the horizon anyway. And the next thing I intend to do anything with directly will be King Kong. Actually, we'll have to see how I feel come that time.
Yeah.
But I'm at least hosting it. So.
Well, I was thinking about hitting at least one arm wrestling tournament this year, and like in the rest of the year, and then maybe one grip event or 2 grip events too. So I just haven't decided which ones yet. But I have one more question for you, Jerome, and that is, basically what your goals are. What are the things that you really want to accomplish before you're done?
Before I'm done, we're talking about long term is a difficult one, because you never know what's going to be possible in future.
Sure.
There's things that we're doing in our sport now that 10 years ago, when I started in grip sport, at least started properly, people just weren't doing. So the long-term goals change. And I'm looking forward to all of us having different goals in the future. In the slightly further future, I've lifted 50 pounds on the Halfpenny in practice a few times, and I want to be able to translate that into a competition lift. So the trouble is that kind of annoyingly little implement is very, very difficult to be consistent on. What you find is that, a bit like the stub, you have to put so much time into it, and you have to progressively overload. You have to train, maybe committing 2 months to getting up to decent weights on that thing. So to actually get that kind of weight, it means it's going to be to the detriment of other things. Now, it's not because it has no crossover benefits, as some people put it, because I don't believe that at all. I think you really do need to do key pinch as a healthy part of your grip. But it's going to be, I know that I have to make it a proper project. Other things, there's things that I've done, the things that I had as lifetime goals up until the end of last year, I've already done. So
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, so I mean, 90.17 pounds was my best Ironmind hub lift, but I was getting air under more than that. It was this beautiful 2-week period where I was just nice and tight, and I knew that my arm would do what I wanted to do, and it's really depressing when you just don't have it in. It's all in the forearm, it's just not there, and all I'd say is, when is it going to come round again? That'll be fun. I know that Jed quite liked the 2 fingers and a thumb on the flask, so I've managed to get tiny micro lifts on 40 kilos before. My best was 84 pounds, 2 fingers and a thumb, but my target has to be 40, but that's not a long-term goal, because if I've had 38, well, you'd think, okay, maybe if in 6 months' time I'm getting back up to that kind of strength again, then it's realistic. The ball ring, why does no one talk about the ball ring? It frustrates me that you've got one of the most beautiful grip implements out there. It's a superb training device. Okay, I've broken my thumbnail on that more times than in any other grip implement. But it draws blood occasionally. But the fact is that if you build up to it, if you're sensible, unlike me, you're not going to get injured on it. And so, I mean, my best lift was last month or 2 months ago, 61.2 pounds. And I want to be up there, 65. I told Jed I think that someone's going to get 70 pounds on that thing, on the ball ring. I don't think I'm going to be the one to do that. I think that someone like Gil Goodman, if he puts the time in, will get it. And I have no doubt at all. He's got the ability. It's just that he's a full-time he's in the sport. He's a full-time strength person, and as a result, you can imagine these people they can't commit so much time to one thing. The Dub Hub. Yeah, I mean, Dub Hub's a difficult one. That's for King Kong, and it's inconsistent, I think is the right description for most of us. I mean, how many people out there consistently do a heavy, shallow hub lift? I mean, most of us, I think, will have you'll have a few weeks where you're good, and then you'll have to say bye-bye to that for a good few weeks, months after that, won't you, until it comes back again. So 60 pounds I've managed on the shallow one. In a competition, I think that the people to look out for will be Serco Petterman, probably, because he's managed over 30 kilos with that thing. So will he do it again? There was a competition. I think I can't remember. I don't know what the results are, but I know that Serco organised another competition this previous week, and he was way down on his previous numbers. So not everyone's going to be up there all the time. Hubs, I mean, future goals, what are you going to want as a tiny person like me? You're going to want to get closer to the heavyweights, so it's all about trying to pretend that I'm not a hobbit, and trying to pretend that I can actually keep some consistency. It's one thing doing 1 or 2 lifts in training and being a YouTube whore, but it's another thing actually getting. It's another thing actually getting it in competition, and actually proving to yourself rather than anyone else that this is a genuine. You're actually in that. You're consistently getting those numbers, and I think that to say you've got good grip strength is when you're consistently lifting, rather than you get a few lucky lifts. And a lot of the time, right? No, that's going to happen again. No doubt.
Oh, it's going to happen again, but it comes and goes like Halley's Comet. It's like once in a while I have a good pinch day and it goes up and that's it. And then but it's once in a blue moon. So yeah, no, I resemble that remark, is what I'm saying. Sure. So
okay,
Alan,
I'll leave it to you guys then.
I'm sorry. Were you saying, Jerome?
No, I was going to leave it to you guys, really. I'm happy to stay on as long as you want, really.
Yeah, well, I actually got to get running, guys. But, Alan, you have any more questions for Jerome?
No, I don't. You actually covered it. I was really curious about some of his training ideas and some of the hub, and I think that came out pretty good. So I'm in good shape.
Excellent.
This was a good call. It's been really nice talking to you, Jerome. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Jerome, it was great to talk to you, for sure.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And, very humbled to be able to contribute to a program that I love, great podcast. And, you don't get little posh English people on the program often enough, so, yeah. Thanks a lot. And yeah, I'll leave it at that, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone else's feats, and just encourage everyone to record. If you're ever getting little PRs, then it doesn't matter if you're not beating everyone else. Get it recorded. You need to. It's your legacy. Let everyone know about the sport.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that is it for episode 97 of This Week in Grip. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Comment down below, and we'll talk to you again next time. We'll see you then.